It's time for Fresh Oil with singer-songwriter and pastor Keith Manley, a program designed to minister the gospel of God's grace and to bring fresh oil to the brokenhearted. And now, with today's program, Pastor Keith Manley.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to a brand new week on Fresh Oil. I'm Keith Manley, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Last week, we began a new series entitled Problems and Promises, and we spent the first week talking about the struggles that we all face. Struggles like discouragement, pain, worry, disappointment, and loneliness. But this week, we're going to turn a corner because behind every problem is a promise. And the first promise we're going to talk about today is one that changes everything. That's the promise of God's presence. If you could only hold on to one truth for the rest of your life, this might be the one, and it's you're never alone. Not in your success, not in your sorrow, not even in your sin, or the storm you find yourself facing right now. No matter where you go or what you face, my friend, God is with you. There's something about presence that changes everything. When a child is afraid in the dark, they don't need a new light bulb. They need mom or dad to sit beside them. And the fear doesn't leave because the darkness disappears. It leaves because love shows up. And that's what the presence of God does, friend. It doesn't always remove the darkness, but it transforms it. Because when God is with you, you realize you're never fighting alone. In Psalm 23, that great Psalm of David, he said in the 4th verse, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Notice David didn't say, "You're going to lead me around the valley." He said, "You're walking through it with me." See, God's presence is not the absence of trouble. It's the promise of His company in the middle of what we're going through. Now, from the very beginning of Scripture, God has been pursuing presence with His people. The Bible tells us in the book of Genesis that He walked with Adam in the cool of the day. And in the book of Exodus, His glory went before Israel in a pillar of cloud by day and a fire by night. Even when we read the Gospels, the same God wrapped Himself in flesh and blood, and He walked among us as Yeshua, Jesus, Emmanuel, which I love that title because it means God with us. And when Jesus ascended into the heavens, He didn't leave us alone. He sent the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, the Helper, to live within us. You see, God's goal was never just to visit you. His goal was to dwell in you, friend. One of my favorite stories in the Old Testament is found in Daniel chapter 3, and it's the story of the 3 Hebrew children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They refused to bow down to King Nebuchadnezzar's idol, and as a result, they were thrown into a blazing furnace. Friend, the fire was so hot that even the soldiers that threw them in, they died from the heat. But when the king looked inside, he said something incredible. This is what he said, "Did we not throw 3 men bound into the fire? I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and the 4th one, he looks like the Son of God." See, friend, that's presence. That same fire that killed others, it couldn't touch the 3 Hebrew children. Not because they were strong, but because they weren't alone. And that promise isn't that you'll never face fire. It's that you'll never face it without Him. He's walking with you today in whatever problem you're going through, my friend. And the presence that He is with us, it sustains us no matter what we go through. When you go through a storm, you'll notice something. God doesn't always shout. Sometimes His presence is quiet, like just a peace that settles over your spirit in the middle of all the chaos. Isaiah 43:2 said, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you." You might be up to your neck in problems today, but they won't drown you. Why? Because the one who walks on water is still holding your hand. See, friends, sometimes God delivers you from the storm, and there's other times He just takes your hand and He brings you through it. But either way, His presence is what sustains us. Years ago, I visited a small farmhouse where an elderly man was nearing the end of his life. He was too weak to get out of bed. And I prayed with him and asked him how he was doing. And he smiled and pointed to an empty chair beside his bed. He said, "That's where Jesus sits. I talk to him all the time. I can't see him, but he's there." And that has stayed with me, friend, because the presence of God doesn't always need to be felt to be real. He's closer than the air that we breathe. He's closer than your next heartbeat. Now, you might be walking through a desert season. I think we all go through those dry places where it seems like we don't feel God. You might even come to church and not feel like singing when everybody around you looks happy, but you're just going through something. But listen, friend, silence doesn't mean absence. Just because God isn't making noise doesn't mean He's not there. Think about Moses. He spent 40 years in the wilderness thinking his life was over. But it was there, in that quiet, forgotten place, that God appeared to him in the burning bush, and He called him by name. Take off your shoes, Moses, because you're standing on holy ground. Sometimes the desert is not where God abandons you, it's where He prepares you. And His presence often hides in stillness, so you can learn to hear His whisper again. Now you might be thinking today, Keith, how do I cultivate an awareness of His presence in my life? I mean, how can I distinguish whether God's there? Well, God's always with you. It's a promise in His Word, but we often forget to notice it. Let me share with you 3 ways to cultivate an awareness of His presence. Number 1, slow down. Life gets so busy, friend. I constantly have to be reminded to slow down because I go at full speed. And my wife often says to me, "Keith, you got to slow down. You got to take a break." In Psalm 46:10, one of the great verses of the Bible, He says, "Be still and know that I'm God." Sometimes we miss it because we're so busy we don't notice. He just wants to spend time with us. And stillness, it invites awareness. When you slow your pace, you start to sense His presence. Speak His name often. That's another way to cultivate awareness of His presence. Just say out loud, "Jesus, thank you for being here. I may not feel you, but I know you're here because you promised in your word." And the more you acknowledge Him, the more your spirit tunes in to His nearness. It's like tuning in a radio station. And then thirdly, surround yourself with worship. I think it's such a good idea. And I was just talking with a friend about this the other day. Put on a Christian radio station in your home and let it play music, or put on your favorite worship CD and just let it play Christian music or Bible teaching. There's something special about filling your home with worship that just invites His presence in, and it cultivates an awareness in our hearts that He's there. Sometimes all it takes is a whisper. "Lord, I know you're here," and suddenly the loneliness lifts, and you begin to encounter the presence of God. Now, friend, God's presence doesn't always change your situation, but it certainly changes you in that situation. It transforms panic into peace. It takes confusion and turns it into clarity. And it can turn my weakness into worship. When Joshua took Moses' place as a leader, it must have been so intimidating. Can you imagine following Moses? He must have been terrified, but you know what God said to him? God said to him in Joshua 1:5, He said, "As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you." You know, friend, that's all Joshua needed to help him lead the children of Israel, was just to know that God was going to be with him no matter what he faced. And he would begin right off entering into the promised land of having to fight a battle at Jericho. But that promise wasn't just for Joshua. It's for you too. He will never leave you or forsake you. Now maybe you feel you've walked away from Him. Can I tell you something, friend? He goes with you. He leaves the 99 sheep to go find the one who had wandered astray. The same God who walked with Moses and Daniel and David, He's walking with you today. He's not a distant deity. He's a present Father. Now let's pause here for a moment today. Maybe you've been feeling alone today, forgotten, invisible, unseen. It might seem crazy to think in this society where we're so connected with Facebook and Twitter and all these things that anyone could be lonely. But sometimes, friend, it's not a matter of tweets or it's not a matter of likes. It's a matter of presence. Just to feel God, that He's with you and He's walking with you. Take a deep breath today and remember this. You are not walking alone down that hospital hallway. You're not sitting alone in that car or that apartment. You're not facing that diagnosis, that loss, or that fear by yourself. Right now, in this very moment, the God of heaven is still sitting right beside you. The same presence that filled Solomon's temple is now filling your living room, filling your car, filling wherever you are today. Just whisper this with me. Say, God, thank you that you are here and I am never alone. Now listen to the words that God promised to Moses in Exodus 33. He said, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. See, Moses didn't ask for a better map or better resources. He said, if your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. He knew the difference was not the plan. It was the presence. Now let me say this gently but very plainly. God's presence is not a mood. It's a promise. Some people think that they have to feel goosebumps. They have to feel this incredible feeling that wells up in their emotions to know that God is there. Friend, all you need is the promise. Feelings rise and fall. They're often dependent on circumstances, but His word stands. Jesus said, behold, I am with you always, even unto the very end of the age. Matthew 28, verse 20. And the writer of Hebrews, he echoes God's heart when he says, I will never leave you or forsake you. Now, how do we practice that promise in real life? Name the place and welcome Him there. Where do you need God most today? Say it under your breath. Just, Lord, be with me in this situation. In the car, on the commute. In the exam room as I'm waiting for results. In this empty house after everybody leaves and I've lost a loved one. Or in the meeting where you feel outnumbered. All week long this week, we're going to be talking about the promises. Not the problems, but the promises God gives us in the midst of our problems. I'd love to hear from you this week. My email address is keithmanley@me.com. Write to me this week and let me know you're listening. God walks with you each and every day, friend. He loves you.
Every day, people smile on the outside, while their hearts are quietly breaking on the inside. They go through the motions of faith, but deep down, they feel empty, anxious, or lost. In Matters of the Heart, author Keith Manley takes you on a journey inside to understand how God designed your spirit, soul, and body to live in harmony. You'll discover what breaks the heart, what drains the soul, and how the healing presence of Jesus can restore what's been shattered. It's time to stop living wounded and start living whole. Because when God heals the heart, everything else begins to change.
Check out my new book, Matters of the Heart. It's available today on Amazon.com in hardcover, paperback, and the Kindle version.
Thanks for joining us today for Fresh Oil with Pastor Keith Manley. Fresh Oil is an outreach of Grace Family Church in Rockford, Illinois, and can be heard each weekday at this same time. You can reach us online at weneedgod.com. Until next time, remember, God's love for you is unconditional, and He makes His mercies new every morning.